Good evening and welcome everyone to the George Mason Basketball Coaches Show with head coach Tony Skinn. I'm Bill Rowland, and on the program today we're going to get to all the upcoming games for the Patriots as we get towards the new year. Also take a look back at the 5-game winning streak, and our special guest tonight is the junior point guard Braden O'Connor. But Coach, last time we talked, you were here. We were coming off a couple of tight, close losses. Since then, 5 straight wins. You guys have turned things around. So I want to start there with those wins. What was it about your team that you saw coming off the couple of losses? You got the nice road win at JMU, kept the momentum going. What changed, if anything, or was it just a matter of staying with the process?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of a whole bunch of different things that, not just us as George Mason are dealing with, but just in general in college basketball. There's a lot of ping pong that's kind of going back and forth as you're trying to figure out your team. And with this new group, we're 2 points away from winning 2 games. When those type of things happen, you can't really look at the game. You have to look at the good and try to fix the bad. And these guys, I got to give them credit. They locked in, because when you go 2-3 and lose those 2 games the way that you lose it, you could easily be divided. And so I got to give these guys the credit and just staying together and just trying to figure it out. And once the confidence level starts to rise from different guys like Braden O'Connor, like Jalen Haynes, we become a tougher team to beat.
You look at some of the injury concerns that you've had to deal with. Darius Maddox has missed games. Jared Billups has missed games. Katie Johnson has missed games. We talked back in the summer about the depth of your team. I think in looking at that, obviously you don't want to have to deal with injuries. You don't want them to happen. But when they have, you guys have been able to respond, whether it's changing the starting lineup or different guys playing more minutes.
Yep.
That's just a tribute to you and your coaching staff to be able to kind of say, okay, this piece can go here. We can move things around. It's been something difficult to deal with, but you guys have done it well.
Yeah, again, I'll give credit to my staff, man. That's part of what we do as coaches. We've got to be able to, in different situations, we've got to be able to be able to adapt. And I'll give credit to our players. Again, from our versatility standpoint, having guys like Zach, having guys like Woody, having guys like Braden, he's not a natural point guard. But it's not, you can't tell, because he's been able to just adapt to that position. Having older guys, and again, I said it last year a lot with our depth. I think if 1 or 2 guys would have went down last year, we would have suffered. This year, I actually believe our depth, and you're seeing that with certain guys are out, and certain guys are able to just step in and play well. Like Darius Maddox was out, and we were able to just step in with a different guy and get some wins.
With Jared out, you've now gone to him coming off the bench.
Yep.
You're starting Woody Newton and Zach Anderson together, which gives you a ton of length, especially when you guys want to go with that 1-3-1 defense. There's a ton of length out there on the floor. How has Jared been? You talked about it. Doesn't matter. He's going to play his 20-some minutes, and he's going to do what he has to do. But how was that conversation? Curious to how a head coach sits a guy down who has been a stalwart and a starter and say, hey, man, I need you to sacrifice and come off the bench.
Yeah. Those conversations are not easy. I've been in those situations as a former player, and I know how, from a mental standpoint, how it can affect your game. It can affect your confidence. Having a guy like Jared Billups makes my job easier because he understands it. I would have loved to put him right back in that starting lineup. But, we're winning games, and you're still playing the same amount of minutes. And so for him, man, he's such a selfless guy. That was an easy conversation. It just makes my job easier because he's all about the team. And that's why, that's why we refer to him as Captain America, because he really is that type of an individual.
Jalen Haynes has had 3 fantastic games in a row, averaging 20 points, 10 rebounds, had a couple double-doubles in there, including a 25-point performance. A lot of people, fans, were a little concerned about him at the beginning of the year because he wasn't playing as well as maybe people thought he could. Looks like the rust has come off a little bit. Evaluate what you've seen compared to, say, early November to late November for Jalen.
Yeah, in all defense, I probably shouldn't say this, but I scream at Jalen Haynes a lot. He's the one guy that, when you look at my playbook, half of my playbook is for Jalen Haynes just because of how skilled he is. He's a mismatch nightmare. I think the one thing people forget about Jalen Haynes is, even though he's a senior, Jalen Haynes is only playing, this is his 2nd year of really playing college basketball.
Right.
He only played 9 games at Virginia Tech and was limited in minutes in those 9 games. He then went to East Tennessee State where, that was really his freshman year. He sat out for us last year. And so when you think about just your rhythm, you think about real time and just trying to figure some things out, it takes you going through some games to figure that out. we can all see the skill set and the type of player that he is. And I was just happy that he was able to bring that on the road at James Madison. And now he's rolling, and it's just made us a better team.
This is exam week for the players, which obviously very important. You want them to be eligible so they can play in the next semester.
Yeah.
As a former player, you've been through this. So now as a coach, how do you make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do in the classroom, but also keeping them sharp on the court as well?
Yeah, no, that's the gift and the curse of being a former student athlete. Just because when I was the student athlete, I didn't think this stuff was that important.
Right.
Now as a coach, these guys have me kind of losing my mind because academics is a major part of what we do. But these guys have been phenomenal for the most part. I'm happy to have them because they are, for the most part, really, really good students. So that's been the easy part for us.
Give me an update on KD Johnson. Obviously missed the last game, was in concussion protocol. Where is he? Is he back practicing? What's the prognosis
He
for him?
couldn't have, again, his injury couldn't have come at a better time, with us having a bye week. KD went up to try to make a play, came down on his hip. But then Bryson then fell on his head, and so that's how he got the concussion. But again, having 8 days in between our two games, it's made it just easy for us to be able to transition him. And I expect him to practice tomorrow, so we're all good there.
Everybody else healthy?
Yeah, everyone else is
knock on wood here.
They're as healthy physically as they can be. So.
When you look at having this type of layoff, is there any worry about rust, guys getting out of rhythm at all? Or, look, they're still in the gym, they're still taking shots?
We're still, this week I had to get creative with this week just because, again, you have such a long week before you go down to Duke. The opposite side of that is Duke has 3 games. And so I think the biggest thing is, one, staying injury-free, but then at the same time, utilizing the time to really try to fix and tighten up some things that we need to do, both offensively and defensively. And we were able to do that over the last couple of days. And so I'm happy with where we are because a major part of what we need to be or where we need to be going into Duke is also just being healthy. And we're that. So
very good. Well, we'll talk about Duke on the other side. Coming up next, Braden O'Connor is going to join us. We'll talk to the junior point guard about his thoughts as we are 10 games into the season. But if you want to come out and check out George Mason basketball out at Eagle Bank Arena, tickets for games between December 22nd and January 18th. You can get general admission tickets in the lower bowl for just $10 while the students are on break. Tickets can be purchased from the athletic ticket office at 703-993-3270 or online at gomason.com or ticketmaster.com. Braden O'Connor coming up next right here on The Coaches Show with Tony Skinn. Welcome back to the George Mason Basketball Coaches Show with Tony Skinn. We'll talk to head coach Skinn coming up a little bit, get his thoughts on the upcoming game against Duke and also the games coming into the new year. But right now, it's our pleasure to be joined by the junior point guard of the Patriots, Braden O'Connor. And Braden, we talked to Coach Skinn in the first segment, got his thoughts about the turnaround with the 5-game winning streak. I want to get your thoughts as a player. You were there, you guys 2-3, lost a couple of really close, heartbreaking games. What do you contribute the turnaround to? What was the conversation like with teammates? Suddenly you guys here again on a 5-game winning streak.
I think obviously the losses came from a connect standpoint. The main points we tried to get through to each other was the rebounding. The rebounding was our main focus in practice throughout the weeks. We were focusing more on getting rebounding drills incorporated into it. And I think it was just more of like a mental thing. We just needed to get more on the same page, more locked in, more connected, and kind of picked up from there.
You've been kind of handed the keys to the offense as a point guard. Had 17 the other night, 15 in the first half against Tulane. How do you kind of balance your job scoring as a scoring point guard, but then keeping guys like Darius Maddox happy, Jalen Haynes happy, and all these guys? Everybody wants shots, right? It's your job to make sure that everybody is getting them.
Yeah.
How do you balance that?
Actually, I think it's pretty easy, especially when you have guys like Darius Maddox and Jalen Haynes. It's easy to pick up assists because Darius is such a good scorer. Jalen Haynes is such a good scorer. Obviously, this is my first year as playing a point guard, and I think the drills that we've done in the summer and throughout the course of the year up until now has like helped me try to make good passes at the right moment and just like little things like that. But yeah, I think it's just easy to get guys involved like that. You don't really have to be selfish. That they just make shots.
People may not know, but you're originally from Canada, Ottawa.
Yeah.
Did you grow up? Now, most people think, oh, hockey country, right? Now, did you grow up? Were you a hockey fan? Did you play? When did you pick up basketball as opposed to going the hockey route?
One thing is hockey. People think that Canada's national sport is hockey. It's not. It's lacrosse. Yeah,
right.
It's lacrosse. I did actually play hockey one summer with our local Boys and Girls Club team with my guys back home. I liked it, but obviously basketball was the route that I went with. I think I kind of took it seriously going into my freshman year of high school, and it took off from there.
Are you still a hockey fan or just?
Yeah, I like watching hockey. I haven't really watched it as much, but my team is the Montreal Canadiens. Go Habs.
Yep, there you go. So as a Canadian, obviously everybody's always proud of the basketball players that come from their home country.
Yep.
Give me your starting five if you're putting together an all-Canada team, or your 5 best players. Who's on your all-Canada team?
All Canada, 5 guys.
5 guys. I'll give you 5 guys. If you want to go to your bench, that's fine too.
We'll do 5.
Just give me 5.
Yeah, we'll do 5. We'll go Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
Of course.
Jamal Murray. Steve Nash.
Okay.
Dwight Powell at the 5. And then I guess we need a 4-man, right? Kelly Olynyk.
It's a pretty good
That's my 5.
It's a pretty good 5. When you transferred here to Mason from UMass Lowell, you were one of the guys that jumped right into being a part of the community.
Yep.
See you out there, social media, all this stuff. You're always out there with the fans and the community.
Yeah.
Why was that so important for you to get involved in that?
Well, I think it's my personality. I like to talk to people. I'm a very outgoing person. So when I saw the opportunity, I went right with it. The people at Mason are wonderful, and I like to talk to them all the time. People in the community there in Fairfax, they're very nice people. And I think that's just as simple as that.
Well, was there any kind of, I think I say culture shock, but was there a big difference between, again, growing up in Canada? I mean, Ottawa was a pretty big city, but then playing at UMass Lowell, but then coming here like the D.C. area?
Yeah.
What were some of the main differences?
To be honest, actually, most of my teammates from UMass Lowell are from the DMV, from around here. So it wasn't too much of a difference. I think I had some experience with some DMV guys, but it's different from Canada for sure. I would say it's colder, much colder up in Canada.
Yes.
Other than that, that's it.
Pretty easy adjustment for you.
Very easy adjustment.
All right, you've got Duke coming up as your next game. You guys have already gone on the road and played in a tough spot in Marquette.
Mm-hmm.
This is another opportunity to kind of measure yourself against one of the top teams in the nation.
Yeah.
As you prepare for that game, when you look at it, you, your teammates, everybody else, is the conversation, obviously you're going down there to win the game, but is the conversation of, hey, this is another opportunity that we can kind of measure ourselves against some of the best talent in the country? Yeah, so when we played Marquette, we had the same mindset. I think it's going to be a similar mindset that we're going in with. Duke is Duke. I mean, they're one of the top teams in the country. I think we're just approaching it by, watching film every day, same as usual. Figuring out matchups, guys are ready to play, and they're ready to take in the big moment against Duke, but we're prepared. When we talked to Coach Skinn about the injuries, and you've been fortunate enough you've been able to avoid them, but all the mixing and matching, again, as a point guard, the guy who's got to keep everybody involved, when you have the different lineups coming in, adjustment period, or do you do enough in practice playing with different lineups that, hey, it's the 5 guys on the floor, let's just go play? I think in practice, the coaches do a really good job because we actually mix up the lineups every single day so that we are used to playing with different guys in different situations. But yeah, regardless of the rotations, whoever comes in and out, they step up. I think we're fortunate enough to have a team that's so in depth that we can have guys step up at any moment. I don't want to ruin it for anybody. Christmas is here. Yeah. Is your shopping done? Shopping is not done. You gotta get on that, Brady. I know. You got the list. You've been good. I have some lists. All right. Everybody on is gonna get their good stuff. No lumps of coal going out for anybody. There might be coal for one person. Well, we won't. I'm not gonna say who. We won't say who it is. Perfect. Brandon, we appreciate you stopping by. Good luck coming up against Duke, and throughout the rest of the season, you've been a breath of fresh air. Transferring in from UMass Lowell. We appreciate the time. Thank you. Coming up next, we will talk to head coach Tony Skinn. We'll get into the Duke game. Also, the A-10 schedule coming up at the beginning of the new year. All that coming up here as we are live from Commonwealth Brewery in Fairfax, Virginia. It is the George Mason Basketball Coaches Show with the head coach of the Patriots, Tony Skinn. And welcome back to the George Mason Basketball Coaches Show with head coach Tony Skinn. I'm Bill Rowland. Thanks again to Brady O'Connor for stopping by with us as our special guest this week. And Coach, we'll get to the upcoming Duke game and some of the other schedule that's coming up for the new year. But Before we get to that, just want to get your kind of comments on Braden. Coming in is not necessarily a natural point guard. You have him in that position. He does a great job. We were talking to him about the ability to not only get his points, he had 17 the other night against Tulane, 15 in the first half, but making sure you keep everybody else happy. And sometimes that's hard to do when you've got guys like Darius Maddox and Jalen Haynes and Gio and all those guys that want to get touches and want to get the ball. How has he done 10 games into the season?
I think Braden O'Connor's been phenomenal. Not just saying that because he's here. He's one of those guys. He makes everything so much easier as far as my job is concerned. His coachability, his willingness to just do all the little things that helps him, but also helps our team. I wish I had the same coachability as a player. I'd have made a lot more money, to be honest with you. But he's been phenomenal. Again, when we recruited him, when I watched film on him right away, within 2 or 3 clips, I could just tell from his athleticism, his size, his versatility. I kind of use the word fast twitch athlete. He's able to do so many different things on the floor. It just helps our team. And naturally, he's becoming something that I think is it's making our team a lot better, and he's turned into a special player. So just happy to have him.
I think it's interesting. I think a lot of people are surprised. Again, at 6'4", he doesn't get to, I'm not going to say it's easy for him to get downhill, but I think people are surprised at how quickly he can turn the corner at times.
Yeah, I mean, he's a hard guard. I mean, if you watch him, he's a downhill player. He's becoming a guy that can change, just kind of change his pace, and that's allowed him to be able to make plays for himself, but also plays for his teammates.
You had the no great shot moment in the Tulane game for him.
You want to bring that back up? You want to talk about that on air?
But again, it's one of those things, every coach has it where you're like, I'm not sure it's a great, good job, Braden.
Yeah.
Let's get back and play some defense.
For
All right,
sure.
let's move on here to the big game coming up. Probably your biggest non-conference game of the schedule. Marquette was pretty big, but this one's right up there, of course, heading down to Cameron to take on Duke. You had already graduated the last time the Patriots played down there in 06-07, last time we were at Cameron. How did the game come about, and how are you prepping them for this type of atmosphere?
Yeah, I mean, just for starters, for us, I think it's, with all due respect to Duke, it's just another game for us. It's an opportunity for us to be able to just kind of see where we are. I got the call in the summer. I was very surprised when I got the call. Most P5 teams don't call A10 teams for a bye game.
Right.
So I've got to give Duke credit for scheduling that game, and we were able to work it out during a time that, for the most part, you don't work it out because it's during a week of finals. And once the contract got signed, I got excited, and, here we are. I'm excited to take these guys down to Duke. As far as I'm concerned, though, the way I looked at it, in the way, I was excited because at the end of the day, they're a very, very young team. Right. Their average age is maybe 18 and a half. Our average age is 22 and a half. And I'll take that any day.
Yeah, I mean, you have experience as a player of going up against the Blue Blood, going up against that, that top team when you guys took on Connecticut. It was kind of the same thing where your team that year in 06, very veteran team. Again, all the seniors on that team, the junior leadership. Yeah. I would imagine guys like Darius Maddox that played at Virginia Tech, guys like Woody Newton that was at Syracuse, they're not going to walk in there and look up and be awed by everything. They're going to be like, it's not necessarily overwhelmed. This is an opportunity. Yeah, it's an opportunity. And again, you talk about, just our maturity. You got guys that have seen it, that have played at that level. Woody Newton spent time in the ACC. He spent time in the Big 12. Darius Maddox, Jalen Haynes, Katie Johnson. We've got enough firepower from a maturity standpoint to be able to go down there. And that's just going to be it's going to become a game of poise, because at the end of the day, that's not an easy place to play. But I think if we're locked in over the next couple of days with our game plan, I think we can go down there and win. Not looking too far ahead. I'm not going to get into game analysis or anything else like that, but we are coming up to, look, the calendar is at the end of December. Yeah. It changes over. In fact, December 31st is your first A10 game. That's when the schedule kind of gets real. Coaches talk about it all the time. There's non-conference, conference, and then postseason. Yep. You guys are starting to come to that second part of the schedule. Yeah, there's so many different parts of your season. You got your summer, you got, the fall, you have non-conference, and then you go into conference play. And, obviously we had some speed bumps and some turbulence early on, but we're figuring it out. I think our versatility, the size that we have, the different guards that we have, it's making our team a lot more, how can you say, we're so excited to play games now
just because we found ourselves. From a defensive standpoint, we're fourth in the country. We're buying into that, and that identity has helped us out tremendously offensively. And it's it's the best time to be this time of the year.
I'll take you away from basketball. And again, it's the holiday season, so I'm going to ask, is the shopping done? I checked in with Braden. I got to check in with you to see where you are on this.
Anytime I scratch my head like this, it usually means, I got some catching up to do, to say the least. But, it is that time of the year. I'm excited. Obviously, I've got to be a coach to these guys, but I've also got to be a dad to my kids and my family. And so I've got some catching up to do, to say the least.
Will it be obviously you're going to have a couple of days off to do some things. Will you get together with just be immediate family, or will you have people coming in? What's the plan?
Well, we have, I've got a small family, and so I have my immediate family over, but we'll also have a few of our international guys that won't have a chance to go back home. Obviously, Gio can't go back home, and Stas can't come back home. And so those guys will be with me and my family for the break.
All right, well, we're looking forward to it. Good luck at Duke. Thanks for doing this again. Yeah. We appreciate it. If you want to check out, maybe you need a stocking stuffer. There's nothing better than George Mason basketball tickets. Get tickets for games between December 22nd and January 18th. General admission lower bowl seats for just $10 while the students are on break. Tickets can be purchased from the athletic ticket office at 703-993-3270 or go online at gomason.com or Ticketmaster.com. Thanks again to Braden O'Connor. Thanks again to Tony Skinn. I'm Bill Rowland saying we'll see you out at Eagle Bank Arena.